It's Out Bounds. We're starting.
Welcome to Out of Bounds. I'm your host, Scott King. On this episode, we're joined by comedian Jim Norton. You can hear him weekday mornings on SiriusXM's Jim and Sam show and also on the UFC Unfiltered podcast with Matt Serra. And Jim's also part of the very polarizing Chip Chipperson podcast that you can check out as well. You even may have seen Jim as Don Rickles and Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. Jim, thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate having you on.
Thank you, man. I'm happy to be here. Anybody who mentions Chip in the intro is okay with me.
People got to check him out. He is very polarizing, as you know.
Yeah.
Now that last part, I know it's been out for a little bit, but I think for fans of the morning show, obviously the whole world was really excited about The Irishman. But for people who are fans of you and listen to you and Sam on this show, there was kind of a tease, and you would kind of reveal details about, I gained weight to play Rickles. You finally let the cat out of the bag that you were playing Rickles in a movie. First you said you were in a movie. And then you kind of talked about how you didn't really focus on maybe doing an impression of him, but you kind of prepped with some of his old jokes because he was a hero of yours. I guess to start, can you just kind of talk about what it was like to shoot that day and just be a part of that movie?
It was, it's funny. I got the notice that I was doing it. 10 days before shooting. So I ate like a pig to try to put a few pounds on. I wish I had more than 10 days to put weight on. And I didn't have to audition for it. I heard Scorsese had watched like a couple of my specials and thought like, yeah, this guy could do it. So it took some pressure off because they just kind of gave it to me. So I went into his office, sat down with Scorsese for about 10 minutes, just to talk about comedy and just to have a conversation. I guess he wanted to get a feel for my energy, and we just talked for a little bit. He goes, all right, great. That was the whole audition, I guess, or I had already been given it. So I went and got makeup. And then 10 days later, I came and shot in the Gotham Comedy Club in New York. We shot that, made it look like the old Copa. And it was really surreal. I had prepared a whole bunch of Rickles jokes that were not in the script, but like everything was scripted. But I wanted to have jokes just to go to if I needed them. And I walk in the room for the shoot, and I walk in, and it's an empty room, and it's Scorsese and Pesci and De Niro. It's just the three of them standing there talking, and it was so great. Like Pesci had like this old gangster hat. It was like looking at the Raging Bull poster, and I almost asked for a group photo, but I just couldn't. I'm like, I hadn't shot yet, and I kind of knew De Niro because I had shot with him, and he had spanked my bare hiney. I'm like, I can't embarrass myself here. So I didn't. I handled it with dignity, and it was weird because with camera angles, like I had to face De Niro and Pesci for their close-up and for eye line. So they had me just kind of standing between a piano and a camera guy while I did my real act, because the Rickles stuff was shot first. And then on the turnaround, Scorsese came over and he goes, Mr. De Niro has requested that you do your own act this time, not Rickles, because he wants to laugh and hear something he hasn't heard yet. So he wanted some spontaneity. So I just stood there and did my act. It was really strange to be looking right at De Niro and Pesci at a table and a room full. The extras loved it because it was something they hadn't heard yet. So the extras were very grateful to be hearing material that they hadn't heard 8 times.
Should probably make it clear that when Robert De Niro was, as you put it, spanking your bare hiney, that was for a project when he introduced you for a special, not in each of your personal lives.
Oh, no, that was that's right. I should say, and there was a couple of times. Once, in order just to show me what a naughty boy I'd been, he gave me a paddling. And then once in the opening of my Mouthful of Shame special, I got De Niro to intro me, and I asked him to spank me, but I didn't put it in the script because I was afraid that they would see that and go, oh, no. So while we were on set, I just asked him directly. I'm like, yeah, because they put us together for before we shot, his assistants cleared the room and like, maybe you and Bob should just talk the scene through. And I had done the comedian, the film with him. So I kind of knew him a little bit. And I just told him I get this thing where I want you to spank me. I brought a brush so you don't have to touch me if you don't. And he goes, I don't care. And then I just dropped my pants and he did it. He was awesome.
So you and Sam, this whole time, you guys didn't really skip a beat as far as broadcasting during the pandemic. Your co-host, Sam Roberts, you guys just started doing it. He was obviously at his place, you at yours. Early on, Sam's got a in-home studio. We see your setup there. You really mastered the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Who listens to the show knows that. What's it been like for you? It seems like the show hasn't skipped a beat. It seems like you guys have guests on, and you kind of rap on current events the way you always do. Is it different for you, and how so?
It's weird. Doing comedy through Zoom is strange because you're used to having a certain energy and in-person energy with a person when you're being funny or when you're joking. So with Zoom, you step on each other a little. Like it's not intentional. It's just it's a different. You're looking directly at people instead of sitting next to them, and it took getting used to. But I mean, now it's just the way we do it. Sam could stay forever in his house. Like Sam he has a bunker. Me, I'm kind of looking forward to going back, but I'm fine doing it like this for the next 6 months if we have to. I mean, we can't go back till at least April, so I've kind of gotten used to it.
So, because you have the radio show, you haven't had to do corporate events like a lot of your colleagues have.
Mark Normand, yeah,
with,
yeah.
with stand up. Yeah, guys like Mark Normand. I mean, how that's got to be. I mean, people talk about corporate events being tricky as it is. That's got to be really tough on Zoom to do stand up for a corporate event.
Yeah, they suck. I mean, I think by this point, I think at first people might have been a little bit more forgiving because, hey, we know we're all stuck in the house and it's kind of like this weird adventure the whole planet's on. And now people are just so sick of it. I think now that this is more considered real life and the way it is, they judge you more the way they would judge you in a real corporate setting. So I've never been effective in corporate gigs and I don't do them unless the owner is a fan and requests me, but I'm not good for that stuff. I'm too dirty. I'm abrasive. Nobody wants to see me up there blinking rapidly. That's just, that doesn't help any corporate event.
So get into sports now. You are a big UFC fan.
Yeah.
People can hear you talk MMA on the podcast with Matt. You've been a big fan of the UFC for several years. And when going back to the O&A days, you guys would have fighters in, mostly from the UFC. And you still do it today. I know you haven't been in studio for a while, but you would let fighters put you in submission holds and chokes, and you would tap. I mean, I can't, what monsters at the highest level UFC fighters are. I can't imagine doing that. What has that been like? How scary has it gotten at times? And what are some of the ones that stand out to you? Because you did it with just about everybody.
I haven't done it in a long time, like since I've been hosting the podcast, but what I would do is I loved watching it. And I'm like, I want to see what this feels like, even on a mild level. Like I knew it wasn't going to be the same, but when you see like an arm bar, you have no relative comparison to what that feels like. So BJ Penn had just lost the title and he was all black and blued and sunglasses and he was in studio. And I asked him to put me, like, again, not a full one, but just to see. And I think he did it right in the chair, if I remember correctly. And he just kind of wrapped me up and he stretched me. And when you realize you're being pulled in two directions at once, you have a new appreciation for how much that hurts. And to have a guy doing that, like in a cage trying to hurt you, I had a whole newfound respect for it. I had Cain Velasquez choke me when he was the champion. He was the heavyweight champion. He put me in a rear naked choke. Or was it a guillotine? I think he did a guillotine on me. Rear nakeds I've gotten from John Jones. Fedor has given me a rear naked choke. The worst, Jones's leg, he put his like shin in my thigh. He gave me like a shin to the thigh kick. And that was the worst one. I almost threw up. I remember, I think my whole body felt tingly. And I think I said, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to throw up. Like, I thought I was going to pass out. I was in shock because your body, I had never felt anything that hurt that much. And he didn't do it full force. So I would say John, because that was week of fight. And you never ask them week of fight because they're dehydrating and they're cranky. And he gave me a good kick to my thigh. Brock Lesnar put me in a heel hook, which really hurt. He got a kick out of how much it hurt. But he did, because he did it very light. He did a heel hook and another leg lock, agonizing. Ronda Rousey armbar, which was also very painful. But to watch someone that good at it go into the move, and you realize how helpless you are as another human being. I realized the only reason I am not beaten to a pulp every day is because other men are choosing not to beat me. Like, I have no defense against guys that can do that. I have no defense against women who can do that. So yeah, you learn a newfound respect for it when you feel, even on a little level, how it is. The fact that these guys do it for a living, it really gave me a new respect for it.
I never thought about that. People are making a conscious decision not to beat you up on an interaction basis.
Like if I met Matt Serra, he's such a good guy. But if I met Matt Serra in the street, he decided to backslap me, there's not a whole lot I could do about it other than maybe slap him back and get beaten or choked. Like, again, how that exchange went would be totally up to Matt. I would have no say in the matter.
And speaking of UFC, I know you've gone to a lot of fights and you happen to be there the night Anderson Silva broke his leg in what I still think is one of the worst sports injuries I've ever seen. That was late December of 2013 at UFC 168 against Chris Weidman. How did you see that unfold? Did you know what happened right away?
I was Dana always gave me great seats, really great seats. And normally I would be in his section, which is off. Like if you enter the cage, Dana's section is normally to the right. That's all the people he puts up front. But this time it was such a sought after fight. I was in the section in the front of the cage where they walk in. So, and I'm specifying that for a reason. So, you get to see the fighters getting patted down and getting, Vaseline put on their faces. So I watched it and you knew that I basically saw him kick and fall and I didn't see it and realize what happened until they showed the replay a second later. But you could hear, because it was front row and you could hear Anderson screaming. It was really crazy to hear a guy like, oh, and then when they took him out because of where I was sitting, like his stretcher came right in front of me. And there's a picture of me looking like I couldn't believe the way he was breathing like, and you were watching a guy try not to scream anymore and try not to pass out. And it was, I don't think I've ever seen anybody in that much physical pain. And it was really jarring to see him that close and in that much obvious agony. He was really hurting him. He snapped his leg badly.
It looked brutal. I remember that. That's tough to watch. I ask all our guests that come on to bring a big sports story with them to tell a funny or interesting thing that happened to them involving sports. Jim, what's your big sports story?
My sports stories normally revolve around me obsessed with meeting somebody. This one is not a funny story, but I remember I had my manager and I had a friend who knew Muhammad Ali very well. And Ali was the top for me. That's the guy I wanted to meet more than anybody alive was Ali. And it was never going to happen. And he was doing some charity event at the Mandarin Oriental, and tickets, I think VIP tickets were $7,000. So, I mean, I couldn't afford $7,000, but his guy said, hey man, I think I might be able to get you into the event and you could maybe say hello to Muhammad. Didn't happen. We couldn't get back. And he was leaving the next day, but I remember thinking, my manager goes, well, there might be a chance before he leaves. So I took a boxing glove in my gym bag and I get a call from my manager who's on his way to the airport and says, hey, look, I just heard from Craig. Do you want to go see Muhammad in his hotel room? And I'm like, yeah, I want to see Muhammad Ali in his hotel room. So my manager turned around, he canceled his flight. I left the gym and I had the glove with me. And we went to the Mandarin Oriental with this guy, Craig Fox, and he took us up to Ali's hotel room. And I got to sit with Muhammad, his wife, my manager, and Craig for about 45 minutes in a hotel room. And that to me is probably the most awe-inspiring thing that's happened to me with a sports figure. Is I got to sit with Ali, and he didn't talk much because he was on heavy Parkinson's medication. So I think it made him very kind of still. But when he talked, he would whisper a little bit. Like he could hardly talk. And I asked him to sign my glove, and he signed very small. And of course, I got a photo. And they told him, his wife told him, do the fist, Muhammad. So he did the fist, and we do this. And then my manager, my stupid manager, does this, and Ali doesn't put his fist up. So Ali's just sitting there and looks at my manager, is trying to punch him in the face. So I'd say that was the best one I've gotten. The biggest ass I've made out of myself would probably be around Derek Jeter. Again, it was an XM charity event where tickets were $25,000 a table. So XM bought one for the Opie and Anthony show, and Eric Logan, our boss at the time, and myself. And I tried to get Jeter to sign a picture I had with him. It was just me and him. It wasn't for sale. It was just, and he just blew me off, and he wouldn't sign it. He just kept ignoring me. So I really badmouthed him on the air. Cause like, as he was leaving, I saw him take a picture with some girls, and I'm like, come on, dude. But now I look back on it, I really regret being such a dick, because like, I wasn't rude in person, but on the air, I was really awful. But then I'm like, well, he was doing a charity event. Like I was trying to avoid paying to get something signed, and he was doing a charity event. So I kind of realized not long after that I was the ass in that picture, as I normally am. So it was my sense of entitlement that really wrecked that night, and not Jeter. I think Jeter did nothing wrong. I was just a jerk and a baby, and I got what I deserved. Nothing. No signature.
I went back and listened to that because I thought you might tell that story, and it was incredible. And you know, you've become a bigger and bigger celebrity and more known since that time. So it's funny that I think it's fair to say you still have a system where you might bring a guy with you to help you get a picture, and you still might ask for an autograph of somebody you really admire. You still kind of have a system in place for doing that.
I'll do a photo now. I haven't asked for a picture in a long time. The last picture I think I asked for was Madonna. I saw her. I was like, "Can we take a picture together?" And she went, "No, thank you." I'm like, "Thanks, stupid. I didn't offer you anything." "No, thank you." I've been turned down by some good ones, but I haven't asked anybody recently that I can think of who said, unless I've interviewed them. Like if I interview somebody, I'll always get one. But I have the people I want. Like I got Ali, I got De Niro, Pacino, Ozzy Osbourne, like all the people I've loved. There might be one or two that I would love to get, but I can't think of one that I really want that I don't have. You know, all four members of Kiss together. Yeah, that one I would love to get. But aside from that, I can't think of anything that I would be willing to embarrass myself for. Oh, I have a great photo with, I got to know Tyson pretty well because I interviewed him a bunch and I would always see him in Vegas. And I have a great picture with him and Jake LaMotta together. There was, I think Tyson did something. He did like at the Beacon Theater. He was performing. He had a really good one-man show. And I think LaMotta was there, and he came with his wife at the time. So I have a great photo with Jake and Mike Tyson together. I have a lot of good boxers. I think most boxers I've gotten. Have any of them said no? No boxers. Fighters are always pretty cool.
That's awesome. I know you have a good collection, so it's good to hear about.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm 52 years old. It's not cute anymore. When I ask for a picture, you know, it just sucks. I'm like, what am I doing? I got one with Susan Boyle. I mean, I don't discriminate. If somebody's been on television, I'll ask for a photo. Dr. Kevorkian is one of my favorites. I got Jack Kevorkian.
That's great.
Yeah.
A wide range of people for different accomplishments throughout their lifetime.
Yeah, and he gave me his card. He said, "Trust me, I hope you call soon."
Now it's time for sports jokes. I wrote 4 jokes for Jim. He wrote 4 for me. We each picked 2, and we read them. Here we go. First joke by Jim Norton for myself. I was disappointed in the war with Grandpa. I thought it was a documentary about the Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight. Of course, the war with Grandpa, a new comedy film starring your friend Robert De Niro, just for clarification out there.
That's right. And I've actually seen it. De Niro invited me to a Christmas party one year, and they were showing that in the other room. Wow. So I went and watched The War with Grandpa. I've seen that already at his house.
Cross that one up.
Yeah. November 22nd marked the 6th anniversary of Belichick's 200th win, and he celebrated the way he does every year by autographing a DVD of the Patriots' most recent opponent practicing. It's hard for me to say that many words at once. So it's a well-written joke. Let's see.
Maybe a little wordy.
It's hard for me to say that, yeah.
But it was fine delivery. A fine comedian. Joke number 2 from Jim that I picked. The New York Jets enforce a mask mandate simply so fans don't recognize them when they're out in public.
Yes,
not doing well right now, the New York Jets.
Oh, but they're doing typical. You know what? They're doing typical. Jet fans, you deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. The fact that you stick with this awful team every year and they don't do anything for you. You know, I like a team when they're winning. And then people are like, you're a bandwagon fan. Yes, you bet I am. Why? Because you're stupid if you watch them when they're 1-15. That's not a good fan. That's a glutton for punishment. All right. It was recently revealed that the Saints quarterback Drew Brees was playing with multiple rib fractures and a collapsed lung. Now, I know what this feels like. I did stand-up once with shingles.
That's not the same thing at all, Jim.
No, it's very different, but I do understand the feeling.
Jim, thanks so much for joining us and you know, telling your sports tales and everything else and appreciate having you on, man.
I'm happy to.
People can check out Jim on the Jim and Sam Show weekday mornings. Yes. And also the UFC Unfiltered podcast with Matt Serra and the Chip Chipperson podcast. Jim, again, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate it.
I'm happy to, Scott. Thank you.
Follow Stat on Twitter and Instagram. Stop killing our feeder.